this regular scheduled meeting on October 23rd, Plain Township Board of Trustees to order. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Welcome to all those that are here. The agenda is before us. Do we have any additions, corrections, deletions? Anything?
Did you want to add about the lake?
No, I'll just talk to him and kind of figure out who this jurisdiction is. It's a little complicated, so I'll just do that kind of as an offshoot. Okay, so the agenda will stand as printed with no alterations. So the first thing is the sheriff's report. So Sergeant is going to deliver the monthly report.
Yeah, full drink on me. So.
But that's okay. Sometimes that's the way it is. I'm familiar with that.
Welcome to my world.
That's right.
That happens. Before you should have the September monthly report. Calls for service was a slight increase from last year at 1366. Our crashes were down 32%. Crashes with injury were up 50%. Our alarms were much higher than they were last year, 47% increase. And our traffic stops were up. We had 238 traffic stops for the month. Citations were down 19.6%. And our arrests were a good increase from last year with 79. We also completed 79 vacation checks. We did 2 OVI checkpoints with 575 cars that were checked through those 2 checkpoints. Detective Ross was busy with 28 cases assigned and his 7 closed cases that are listed as well. So the subsequent pages are comparable from 2017, 2018, and then our yearly calls for service comparison.
Anything come out of the OVI checkpoints? Any?
We had 3. I believe we had about 3 BOVIs out of it.
We'd also like to bring the attention of the board that it is National School Bus Safety Week. And in correspondence with that, Sheriff Meyer has reinstated his campaign for safe school buses. So we've been working with multiple jurisdictions throughout the county, and residents should be seeing an increase of deputies actually riding buses, deputies following buses, and extra enforcement inside and around the school zones. So if you have any questions, you know that's going on this week.
And then I'm surprised about the 47% increase to alarms because the board, and it was a couple years ago when they changed how alarms were defined, that were given, were increased. Can you let us know when it's to the point where you're doing so many of those, it may need to be re-looked at?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I know we're seeing a lot more residences with alarm systems.
Mm-hmm. And with that, will
and that's gonna you know,
that's what happened.
add to our responses. Personally, there's no business or residence that I can think of off the top of my head that are like repeat offenders that I can think of.
That's where our fee
Yeah, and I think
structure
that's with the false alarms. So
if you start to see that, will you let us know?
yeah, and I can look through if I see something that the guys will go, man, we're going to the south side. We can look over that.
And then you have a swearing in, you have some promotions going on, right? Is that, it's not?
Yes, we do.
Oh,
We have some promotion from our past tests. We're coming up, sergeants and lieutenants. It's going to be some new faces. Our service to the township is not going to change. It should not be interrupted at all. Sergeant Carver will be promoted to lieutenant, and he will be assigned to Plain Township. Captain Springer is going to be moved to the sheriff's office to fill a vacancy we have there. So it should be a smooth transition. Most everybody here, I think, has worked or knows Ryan Carver. Should be very easy. Sergeant Koenig will remain with the township along with Sergeant Fenn, right? Sergeant Fenn.
Is that
Who's our go-to guys?
November 1st? Is that what
November
it is?
1st.
November, at what time? Because I usually try. to
That
do
is, 1 o'clock? You know what, hold on, let me
Is
check.
that noon? I
Just-
thought it was at noon.
It might be noon.
Yeah, well, just let us know. I was pretty sure of the date, but I wasn't sure of the time.
You're correct, it's noon, 12 o'clock.
12 o'clock, thank you.
It'd be in the front training room.
Where you always hold that?
Where,
Yes.
yes, front training room,
Yep.
sheriff's office.
Thank you.
Who would be our go-to guy? I know we call Springer for everything, but
After November 1st would be Lieutenant Carver,
it'd be Lieutenant.
yes. As any of us also, if you need anything.
And will there be cake at this swearing?
We'll make sure of that.
Thank you. As we usually do, is there anybody in the audience that has question or concern to address to the sheriff at this time? Seeing none, thank you for that. Seeing none, let's go to new business.
Thank you. I'm going to turn new business number 1 over to our Parks Director. I just want to say at the beginning of this is just exploratory. It's by revised code in order to get accurate figures that you have to do, make this next step. So with that,
I'll just read it directly, this is my first time going through it.
you don't have to read it all.
High level,
Yeah.
not all of that.
Okay, so this is a resolution to allow us to certify the millage at 1.5, just to get an accurate number as to what that would look like.
I'll still move on to new business number 1.
I'll second. It's been moved and seconded. Discussion. Basically, we're doing this based on the presentation we had in the work session. So,
Correct, yes, sir.
you know, it was not the first time that we looked at this, so. Anything else? Roll call.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Mr. Lino?
Yes.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Thank you, and that's the end of new business.
Thank you. That takes us to the fiscal officer's report. Mr. Wolf.
Thank you. Fiscal Officer number 1 is a request for resolution to authorize the payment of pending warrants in an amount of $809,309.90.
I'll move on fiscal officer number 1.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Discussion.
I think just to clarify, I mean, the reason this is as high as it is wrapping up some paving costs that account for over half of it, and then our normal rotary fund. So otherwise, all other expenses are right in line with normal monthly.
Anything else? Roll call.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Mr. Lino?
Yes.
Fiscal Officer number 2 is a request for resolution to authorize the payment of regular payroll in an amount not to exceed $250,000.
So moved.
Second. It's been moved and seconded. Discussion. Roll call.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Mr. Lino?
Yes.
Fiscal Officer number 3 is a request for resolution to authorize payment for the following medical claims.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Discussion. Roll call.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Mr. Lino?
Yes.
Fiscal Officer number 4 is the investment report for the month of September. If there's any questions, I'm available after the meeting. Fiscal Officer number 5 is the bank reconciliation for the month of September. Again, if anyone has any questions, I'll be available after the meeting. Fiscal Officer number 6 is a request for resolution to authorize the following transfers.
So moved.
Second. It's been moved and seconded. Discussion. Roll call.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Mr. Lino?
Yes.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Fiscal Officer number 7A is a request for resolution to authorize the benefits of longevity pay payable on November 9, 2018 to members of the Plain Township Firefighters Association who meet the requirements of the attached schedule.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Discussion. Roll call.
Mr. Lino?
Yes.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Fiscal Officer number 7B is a request for resolution to authorize the benefits of longevity pay frozen at current years completed for resolution number 16429 payable on November 9, 2018 to all non-bargaining unit employees who meet the requirements of the attached schedule.
So moved.
Second's been moved and seconded, discussion. Roll call.
Mr. Lino?
Yes.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Fiscal Officer number 8 is a request for resolution that the fiscal officer of this board be and undersigned is hereby directed to certify a copy of this resolution to the Stark County Auditor of said county.
So moved.
Second's been moved and seconded, discussion. Roll call.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Mr. Lino?
Yes.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Fiscal Officer number 9 is a request for resolution to authorize the Plain Township Fiscal Officer to request an additional amended certificate of estimated resources from the Stark County Auditor for $288,946.28, and upon certification by the Stark County Auditor to appropriate these funds as follows.
So moved.
Second, it's been moved and seconded, discussion. Roll call.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Mr. Lino?
Yes.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Fiscal Officer number 10 is a request for resolution to certify the lighting districts established in Plain Township as shown on the attached list for tax year 2018 to the Stark County Auditor for a period of 1 year.
I'll move on fiscal officer number 10.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded, discussion. Roll call.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Mr. Lino?
Yes.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Fiscal Officer number 11 is a request for a new liquor license from Tienda El Torita LLC located at 3300 Whipple Road, Canton, Ohio 44718.
I think we are going to follow the lead of the school and the church.
Okay.
I think if they have no objections to that, we have no objections to that. Would that be?
What's the parameters, just for the sake of the public
If
understanding that?
if it's
So
within
not-
500 feet of a school or church, the school or, it is, and the school or church then is notified by the state, and they have a right to object. I talked to Rick Flory, the commissioner's office, he said that would go right to the state, so he wouldn't see an objection. I called the school, didn't get a response back yet, but I did talk to Rick and say, would it be okay if the board stated we will follow in the steps of the school, because the board would want to support them if they asked for a hearing, and he said absolutely.
I mean, how's this in proximity to the Grinders?
I was gonna say, Grinders is right there.
Because I mean,
John and I looked at that tonight.
It's,
I would say if they, I think the only
Grinders,
conflict comes is if they want to dispute that, but you've got a pre-existing business.
Grinders has an actual bar and serves actual liquor.
yeah, they're in the 3100 block.
This
This
is
is
33.
33, so there's.
Grinders is outside of that 500 feet.
And in reality, I mean, when you look at, if you measure the distance from front to front, it's probably longer than 300 feet.
Yeah.
But if you measure the back property line to the front of the school/church property, it's short, because it's that single property basically going due north, perpendicular. It's probably within that 300 feet.
And it's actually 500 feet.
This is
Yeah,
actual
so,
restaurant.
yeah,
Yeah, and it's per the
Yeah.
revised code, and
Mhm.
just not knowing, not getting a response from the school yet, because I was just made aware of the distance.
but
Just
you are,
don't know.
Grinders has been established there
Grinders is right
forever.
there.
Right there.
So,
This is a restaurant also, right?
Yes.
Looking at this?
Yeah, this is.
So I guess
just
I just think
restaurant.
though, is there any concerns about the sheriff first and foremost? Because to me, if the sheriff's gonna say there's no issues, I would like to know personally what the noted reason is from the school.
Yeah, if
Correct.
they even
Yes,
have one,
and
we
the
don't
church,
know.
Yes,
Both of those entities, in my mind, should be going through them
No.
for that guidance as well,
True.
outside of simply, I don't want it there.
yeah.
Because Lord knows the pettiness that gets in.
Yeah, and they may be
Some-
okay with it, we just don't have that answer, and there's not a meeting for 3 weeks, and this would be due before then. So however the board decides, as the sheriff does not have an issue,
I think Scott wrote a good book, too.
Well, we just,
We'll just have
let's
to,
just keep that communication.
yes, yes,
You know,
yes.
so as soon as we
I
hear
can have
back
the
from
answer
them, if
tomorrow.
it's positive,
Yeah.
exactly,
Yeah.
all right.
All right, fiscal officer number 12 is a request for resolution to authorize a refund as follows for overpayments for EMS services requested by Ohio Building.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded, discussion. Roll call.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Mr. Lino?
Yes.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
And that concludes the fiscal officer report.
Thank you, Mr. Wolf. That now takes us to the administrator.
Okay, I have one resolution for you tonight, which is a resolution to accept the quote and approve authorized payment to American Total Maintenance renovations not to exceed $6,679.37 from Fund 01302 for labor and material for the windows and garage doors at the Township Hall.
I will so move.
I'll second for discussion.
Yes, this is not to replace, we've looked at our windows, we've had people come in and say, oh, you need all new windows. This is the first group that has said, no, actually, your windows are good, what you need is some repairs of the weather stripping, the caulking, some of the internal devices, same with the garage, so all of the windows will be evaluated and just brought up to snuff. Instead
And
of
then-
one window, our main window would be $6,000 alone to
And
replace,
just to
so.
clarify, I mean, this is based upon industrial, the caulking is going to be a commercial grade
Yes.
material. It's not going to be something we go into
No.
Home Depot and get off the shelf, because there's a
No.
significant
Yeah,
difference.
difference, yeah.
Anything else?
That's the end of my discussion.
Roll call.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Mr. Lino?
Yes.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
And that's the end of the administrative report.
Thank you. That takes us to Fire Department Chief Schallenberger.
Thank you. Item number one is just our monthly report.
Is that one of the old police cruisers, or what is that?
No, that is actually not.
But we did have some down there,
Yeah.
right? There are some,
We do
yeah.
have some down right now we were working with today.
No.
Okay. No questions here.
Okay.
Thank
Number
you.
2.
All right, number two is a resolution by the Plain Township Board of Trustees to authorize purchase and payment of one Unimac 30-pound gear washer extractor for Station 2 from Blinky Enterprises. Quote is attached and coming out of Fund 10A08.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Discussion.
Essentially, this is to replace an existing machine that's been repaired and repaired again.
Which I actually bought.
Yeah, it's actually a
How long
machine, it's
ago that
from
was.
1995, so we got about 20-plus years out of it. The bearings are going bad in it, so we've, I'll use this life there, I think, so.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Would have been a senior in high school.
me too.
Oh, it's not.
And, I mean, that's, yeah. John, roll call, please. That picked me up real quick.
Put on the agenda, an exact termination of.
Trustee.
Yeah, and Rob for being
Young
so young.
I would say that length of time for the amount of work that thing gets and the speed of that, I mean, it's an extractor as well, so it's not just a washing machine as most people would think, especially with all the, there is actually a standard today that firefighters have to use based on the cleaning of their equipment and the monitoring of it and its life cycle. I mean, there's a whole bunch of things. And the expenditure of this, obviously, the way it maintains that gear, it's an absolute necessity, so.
And I think you were going to touch on the high prevalence of cancer.
uh,
And that's why it's
absolutely,
so
yeah.
important to,
Which is a major issue in the American Fire Service, not just here, but in the American Fire Service. So, anything else? Roll call.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Mr. Lino?
Yes.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Item number three is purchase of radios. Resolution to purchase 4 APX 900 portable radios and 1 APX 6500 mobile radio with accessories from Motorola Solutions per state contract pricing not to exceed $12,000 from Fund 21A02I.
So moved.
Second, it's been moved and seconded, discussion. This is just all done in conjunction with, it's a process, and that process is moving us closer and closer and closer to being on this system. And the commissioners have done a great job putting this together. The sheriff has done an outstanding job putting this together. And for the first time in this county, it appears that this entire system is going to be that collective ability to be able to have a system that everybody is not only familiar with, but pooling money together to be able to get it and the whole 9 yards. So it's pretty exciting for me, I'll tell you that. Anything else? Roll call.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Mr. Lino?
Yes.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Item number 4 is a resolution by Plain Township Board of Trustees to authorize purchase of payment to B&C Communications for reprogramming and updating of 800 megahertz radios not to exceed $7,000 to be taken from Fund 10A08.
I'll move on FD number 4.
Second.
Been moved and seconded, discussion. Roll call.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Mr. Lino?
Yes.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Item number 5 is a resolution by Plain Township Board of Trustees to authorize purchase of payment to Phil Leak and Company for parts, repairs, and labor to repair the Advantage lift system used in township for township vehicles not to exceed $5,000 and be split from Fire Department Fund 10A08 and Road Department 11A08.
So moved.
Second?
Been moved and seconded, discussion.
This is strictly for all the big heavy equipment, the big plow trucks, the medic units, that this isn't.
Up to the power truck.
Yeah.
There. If Rob passes his levy, we can start chipping in for that.
The board hasn't
forgot
even
to put that
decided
on.
to do
Good
that,
point.
they're just exploring, Joe, so.
Anything else?
Somebody likes it.
Roll call.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Mr. Lino?
Yes.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Item number 6, and I won't read the whole thing, it's very lengthy, but it's a resolution to secure a structure at 3100 33rd Street Northeast by Ohio Revised Code 505.86, and that is securing a door and a window. And we did post some pictures there for you.
I'll move on FD number 6.
Second.
Been moved and seconded, discussion. Roll call.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Mr. Lino?
Yes.
And that concludes fire department business.
Thanks, Chief. That now takes us to the road department. Mr. Icino, welcome back. I might add, your assistant did a very good job filling in for you, but it is good to have you back. Not because he didn't do a good job, it's good to have you back.
That helped with the process, and I'm glad to be back, believe me, because it had been off that long time. Feeling a lot better. Item number 1 is the monthly report for September.
So,
Yeah.
His golf trips are over.
Okay, no mention of that four-letter word, right?
Not yet, not yet.
I'll do my anti-snow
Yeah.
dance.
I always follow Scott's lead on that.
Okay.
Sting probably trying to push it a little further on.
Any questions? All right, next.
Item number 2 is a resolution authorized, Plain Township Board to authorize the purchase of a plasma cutter Max 65 200 600 volt plasma cutter with air gas to be split between the road and the fire department.
So moved.
Second, it's been moved and seconded, discussion.
Joe, that unit we have, pretty old, all right?
It's 12 years old, I do believe, and we looked at possibly repairing it, and the costs were just climbing, with no
We never get-
guarantees that it was going to be able to work for anyone at the time, so this was the better route to go, to Chuck and I talked.
Roughly you want to tell us how old you were then?
Yeah.
What year?
Yeah,
What
right.
years ago?
2007.
I don't do math well. I was 12 years younger.
29.
29-ish, yeah. Younger
All
than
right.
you.
Anything else?
Oh, Miss Paul, Miss Paul.
Roll call.
Mr. Lino?
Yes.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Thanks, Joe.
Thank you.
That takes us to zoning, Mr. Ferrara.
Thank you, gentlemen. First item on the agenda is a monthly report.
It's festive. Any significance of anything?
You know, we're ahead, we've got a lot of home building, new homes coming in, and we're way ahead on those this year.
Any questions? Okay, number 2.
Now, second item on the agenda is resolution to declare items A through D as abatements, nuisance
So
abatements.
moved.
Second's been moved and seconded. Discussion. Roll call.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Mr. Lino?
Yes.
Is that it then?
I'm sorry, sir, yes,
Oh, that's okay.
we're all done.
Thank you. All right, that takes us to parks, Mr. Steinberg.
Thank you. Item number 1 is the monthly report. Those pictures are on our senior sneakers program.
Looks like Robin back.
Easy.
Well-
Yeah.
I'm much younger than that dude.
But the class truly is packed now, and you can hear them just having a great time. And what a great program where it's the North Canton Y, they're using our facility, our residents are coming, there's no charge. I can see this really adding some more classes, it's wonderful. Good job, Rob.
Cheers.
Okay. Any questions other than that? Number 2.
Number 2 is a resolution for payment to Know Your Roots for the farmer's market costs for the end of September, or the month of September, excuse me, the month of September.
So moved.
Second. It's been moved and seconded. Discussion. Roll call.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Mr. Lino?
Yes.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Thank you. Item number 3 is a resolution to authorize payment to Central Allied for materials to redo parts of the Diamond East lot at 2087-43 to be taken from Fund 01B05.
So moved.
Second's been moved and seconded. Discussion. Roll call.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Mr. Lino?
Yes.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Finally, item number 4 is a resolution to authorize payment to Central Farm and Garden in the amount of $93.54 to be taken from Fund 01B02 for the seed aforementioned from the presentation today.
So moved.
Second's been moved and seconded. Discussion. They were actually aerating today, so we're probably getting ready to do that process.
We are more than ready, yeah.
You can tell. Well, you can see where all those goals sit too. You can tell the difference in the turf.
The goal mouths
Yeah.
we wear out quicker than
Yeah.
anyone.
Roll call.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Mr. Lino?
Yes.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
All right, nothing from the law director, no communication. So that takes us to public speaks. If there's anybody in the audience that wishes to address the board, please state your name and address. And I'm assuming that you 3 are here for a school project?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Okay, any questions that you might have? Anything that you need for verification that you were here? Do you have papers that we'll need to sign? Okay,
Is it AP government?
Honors government.
yeah, okay. So if any time that you don't have a project and you feel like coming back, you're more than welcome.
Who's your teacher?
Yeah,
Mrs. Morrison. We go to Central Catholic.
Nice, you came all this way to see us.
yeah.
What township do you live in?
I live in Plain.
Okay,
I live in Pine.
okay, all right, good. Okay, well then, we'll, after the meeting, just bring your paperwork up and we'll make sure we take care of it for you. Thank you for coming, by the way. And actually, these are all taped. videoed, so I don't think you'll see your face on there.
Actually, we could get the
Yeah.
can over there real quick.
Just go ahead, Tom.
Our eight people.
Get them on there.
Yeah,
Then you can show your teacher you were actually
Yeah, that's
attending
right.
present.
Come all the way around to these guys. Put them on.
Yeah, right. There you go.
Say hello to your teacher.
there you go.
You just scored points with your teacher.
That should be bonus points. We are
That's right.
requesting bonus points for you.
There you go.
Now you guys are famous.
Yes,
You're on YouTube.
so thank you for your patience. No concerns of trustees, no concerns of the fiscal officer. We do have.
Go to the approval of the meeting minutes for October 9th.
I'll second that. It's been moved and seconded. Discussion, roll call.
Mr. Lino?
Yes.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
We do have a need for an executive session. Be it hereby resolved by the Plain Township Board of Trustees, Stark County, Ohio, to adjourn to executive session at 6:31 from this regular meeting of October 23rd is authorized under Ohio Revised Code 121.22G for the purpose of the consideration of 1B, employment of a public employee or official, 1F, compensation of a public employee or official.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Discussion. Roll call.
Mr. Lino?
Yes.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.